Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 118 of the Dudes and Beer podcast. I am Chris Jordan, your host. With me, as always, is the stalwart Stephen Bishop, as well as Julie Connolly, returning from a triumphant business trip.
Yes.
Most triumphant. She was gone for about a week and a half, something like that. We missed her dearly, so we are so glad to have her back. And with us this evening as well are our guests from Austin Resource Recovery from the Department of Strategic Initiatives, is Memi Cardenas, as well as Michelle Hernandez, who is the teacher of the Austin Backyard Chicken class, as well as the founder of the Backyard Coop tour here in town. So we will be talking about all of that fun stuff, how it relates to sustainability, everything else, right after we talk about more education stuff, because we're all about education here at Dudes and Beer.
Oh, yeah.
And we're all about reading and growing the human brain, whether it's science fiction, horror, history, or your favorite how-to books. Reading is great, but in the hustle and bustle and grind of everyday life, it can be hard to find time to sit down and turn a page. That's where Audible comes in, folks. Audible is an awesome new audiobook service from Amazon. It's the perfect way to catch up with all your favorite reading on the go. You can listen to your favorite books wherever you are with our free app, right in your home, in your car, or at the gym. Even if you switch devices, you will never lose your place in your story. Listen to A-list celebrities narrate their favorite stories, enjoy full cast performances, and discover Grammy Award-winning audiobooks and more. Simply visit the website audibletrials.com/Dudes and Beer to get your free 30-day trial of Audible today. What do you get with that deal? You get a 30-day membership free, plus your free audiobook. Whenever you join up, you'll automatically get a book to start you off. You also get 1 credit per month after that trial is good toward any audiobook, regardless of the price. You get ad-free premium audio listening offline with no interruptions. You also get to build your own library, and you get to keep the books even if you leave the Audible program, which is pretty rare. You know, you actually get to keep all the audio files. Also, you get 30% off of additional audiobooks as long as you're still a member of the program. And you, like I said, get easy exchanges. If you don't like the book that you got, simply exchange it at no cost anytime. So once again, that website is audibletrials.com/Dudes and Beer. Go by and join the Audible audiobook service from Amazon and start listening to your favorite audiobooks today. That website again is audibletrials.com/Dudes and Beer. Start reading your favorite book with your ears today.
Can't beat that deal.
With that out of the way, everybody, welcome, ladies. Welcome to the studio. We've been kind of hanging out for the last almost hour, just kind of getting to know each other, things like that, learning a little bit more about this awesome program that has been put forth by the Austin Resource Recovery Department. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you exactly do there at Austin Resource Recovery, Memi, and then we'll move into how the Backyard Chicken program and Michelle became involved.
Absolutely. So Austin Resource Recovery is worth pointing out that it is a department of the city of Austin. We're formerly solid waste, and we wanted to take a different approach to how people view their unwanted items instead of a waste as a resource. Sure. And in the department that I work in, strategic initiatives, like you mentioned before, everything that comes out of there, we really look at it with that zero waste lens to live a life without creating trash and sending stuff to the landfill. So this program, the Chicken Keeping Rebate Program, is a reimagining of the backyard composting program, where instead of sending food scraps to the landfill, we put them in a backyard composter and create compost. And in this iteration of it, the chicken is the composter itself. So feeding the chicken food scraps, and not only that, but it gives you the benefits of aerating the soil, of fertilizing, being a natural pesticide, and eggs.
Yeah.
And Michelle can tell you, and I'm sure you know too, that they are great companions as well.
They are, right?
Yeah,
they're fantastic. That was one of the things that we were talking about beforehand. Now, how did you come to get involved with the Austin Resource Recovery and everything else. Michelle?
Yeah, so I have worked some with different city initiatives in the past, and I was working some with Office of Sustainability and met some of the people in Austin Resource Recovery, and it would just happen that it was happening at the same time that this initiative was going underway. So I have been in the crazy chicken lady mode for almost a decade.
The crazy chicken lady.
It put us together.
Yeah,
and
people
from
remember
there,
that title.
We kind of collaborated, or I got the opportunity to see and give feedback on some chicken information and to help.
We collaborated on a lot of the materials. So what I didn't mention is the way the program works is that you sign up, you come in, you take a class, and you get a rebate towards the chicken coop.
And how long is the class?
Michelle?
The class is 1 hour.
1 hour.
That's it?
1 hour.
I mean, you can blink your eyes and it's gone.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean,
Yeah.
What's great, too, is that a lot of them are at farmers markets, or like this weekend we're at Recycled Read, so you can get a little shopping done. You can
you can see some other vendors, things like that. Catch some of what Austin is really about. You know, a lot of the small town atmosphere kind of stuff, and local businesses. And you know, we were talking about how they make great pets, everything else. I've got some pretty sociable birds myself. I don't know about you. I know you've got a much larger flock than I do. I wouldn't even consider mine a flock so much as a grouping. I have 2 chickens. So
just partners.
Yeah, they're just hanging out. 2 dudes or two hens or whatever.
2 hens and
their chicken bands.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, hens and scratch.
Hens and scratch.
It's been great. There you go. 0 waste.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've actually got some pictures of my ladies up right there. That is my barred Plymouth Rock. That's Checkers. She is the one that's laying presently. I bought them old enough to lay because I wanted egg production. Like
I know
I
this
said
one.
earlier.
It's a pullet, no?
Just after pullet. Just after pullet.
I worked on all. I know more than I
that's right.
Flashcards.
Pretty good.
Yeah. And you know, there is Dawn. That was the one that was a pullet when I got her, and she literally just molted her pullet feathers and her comb and wattle. For those of you who don't know, the wattle chickens, most chickens have a comb and wattle. It's not just the males; the hens have them as well. Yeah. And they typically don't lay until their comb and wattle come in. Okay. Her comb just recently pronounced and became red. Ooh. Same with her wattle. They dropped down.
That might be good information for new people doing the chicken thing. You know?
It is.
Yeah. Kind of like, hey, why haven't I gotten eggs yet?
Yeah, and that's just it. A lot of people will buy a pullet hen, something like that, and think that that's right up around production time, which some hens do produce in the pullet stage, but most of them are full hen. Right after that, they'll drop the long plumage that's on their tail, they'll molt them, and then they get the much more buffeted tail, like what Checkers had over here, where you know it's the typical like 45-degree swoop, and that's what allows them to be able to lay up against a tree trunk,
I never got
something like that, and actually have clearance from the cloaca for the egg to come out. So yeah, sorry, I'm big on my birds.
You're really into these chickens.
Yeah. Well, I was big. I'm sorry, folks. They came from dinosaurs. I was big into lizards as a kid. So they're the only difference is they have feathers. Literally, like every single thing about them is the same. They both
when
have
you
to
look
be
at those talons, man.
Yeah, you know. Well, not just that, but like their reproductive organs, everything. It's the exact same way. Birds and lizards and snakes are the exact same. They're built the same way in their reproductive organs. So it's pretty interesting. So that's where a lot of my knowledge about that.
That's really cool, though.
And you can really see it when you watch them run in a yard or moving. You can see that.
You can absolutely see the raptor.
They're
the raptor in them.
Family in them.
And you know, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, I didn't have the problem until recently of my birds taking flight. Have you had that issue?
I got what are called dual-purpose birds. So you can get, of the different classes, you have layers, which are smaller and lay more eggs. You got your meat birds, which are, for the audience, usually a little bit stockier, less eggs, so that you can harvest them. And then you have what's called dual-purpose, which is your middle of the road. So they're supposed to be good layers, and if you wanted to eat them, you could eat them as well. So they're a little heavier set. So I find with my dual-purpose, they are less flighty.
Yeah.
My layers that are great layers are a little more flighty.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to clip their wings. If
Yeah,
I have
and that's if you notice, I actually have a close up here somewhere.
Did you clip your wings?
I did. I clipped my bird's wings, and I didn't have to do it until recently. They had been very good. They had not taken flight. There was one short fence over on the side alley of my house abutting the neighbor's property, and Checkers is the flock leader, and she took flight and went over, I guess, one day, and Dawn was like, well, look at that. that can happen. And then it happened again the next day.
No way.
Then the next day it happened twice, and I was like, all right, time to learn how to clip some wings.
You literally clip her wings.
But they even got over beyond that.
Really?
And I mean, I took an inch off the flight feathers the first time around, and for those of you that don't understand what that is, like on a bird's wings, the first about 10 feathers that make up the first arc of the wing are what actually provide the lift. Those are the flight feathers. The rest of them are for directional use. So they're like the flaps on an airplane.
Yeah.
Wing. The first 10 feathers are like the front part of the wing that actually provide lift. The other parts are like the elevators that move up and down to give them directional flight. So if you trim that first part back by only about an inch, you should be able to at least give them a wobble. A wobble enough to where they're uncomfortable and don't want to fly.
And if you do it on one side, that helps them also.
And that's what I did, because that's everything that I read was you only have to lop one wing.
Yeah,
just one.
You only have to cut off. You only have to cut off about an inch. Well, and if you've ever cut a dog's nails, if you've ever cut a cat's nails, you can learn to recognize that quick. You can see where the vein is, and you can see where the taper of the wing actually nails, stops bluntly and starts to sharpen, and that's where you want to cut it. Anything beyond that, you can hit the quick. You can make them bleed, but it's literally the same thing as if you clipped your own fingernail, or if you clipped your dog's quick, it'll bleed for like a minute or two, and then they'll be fine.
So how do you solve the issue?
I actually had some spare lattice work over on the side of my house, and I literally just extended it up by 8 feet. So good luck getting over that, ladies. There's now a huge part of lattice work going over into the tree that comes over from the neighbor's house.
It might show you up one of these days.
It off,
she seems pretty persistent.
They are.
Maybe she's heard
What does this say about Checkers?
Well, Checkers is most definitely the flock leader, and that's where we get into the personality of birds, because not everybody realizes what great companions they can make. Whenever I first got the birds, because Checkers was already laying, she was a little bit more skittish. Dawn was a little bit younger, like I said, had just become pullet, slightly right up around there. So it took her about 2 months to get through the pullet stage, but she took to handling a lot easier. But as she became a pullet, became really skittish and would not, like before I would bait her with a treat, like a mealworm or a raisin. They love their raisins and their blueberries, especially. But I could bait her up on the table and then up onto my shoulder, and she'd perch on my shoulder, all kinds of stuff. Even now, Checkers will jump a good 4 feet in the air to grab a raisin out of my hand or something like that.
Cool.
Oh, they come to me when I call them.
Yeah, you can totally train them.
Oh yeah,
literally.
Just like a dog with a clicker, you can train them to different clicks to do different things. You can train them. You can actually potty train a chicken.
I have a question about it, though. Like, how much of an investment is it with your time? If you get a dog, you have to take it for walks, you have to bathe them. What kind of an investment, time-wise, do you make with a chicken? That
depends on, how many chickens you have.
Yeah.
Just like with dogs, and different, I don't know. To me, they don't really take a lot of time. I spend, if I have to, 15 minutes a day with my chickens, maybe. Yeah. It's hot out.
It's kind of how much do you want to spend, but you can do on a daily routine. 15 minutes, come out, feed them. maybe have some way to let them out in the yard or their chicken run, check around, look at, besides feed and water, checking, kind of doing, as you're doing that, seeing is there any sign of predators that have been leaving their calling cards, scat, or other things where you're like, oh, there's a weak spot, let me fix that.
Yeah.
So you're looking at that, their health. You can do all that in a 15-minute visit. A lot of times, though, it's nice to come home like at the end of a day and watch your chick TV. Just go out there and then watch them just relaxing.
Kind of relaxing.
So the caution to the our listening audience: you only have to spend 15, but we can't guarantee that's all you will.
Exactly.
You might get sucked in.
It's funny because since we had Babalu cigars on, I've been smoking more cigars out in the backyard. But that's when I have my chicken TV time.
I saw the wrapper out there too.
Wrapper. I'll sit out and turn the grill on or something, and for that 20-30 minutes that I'm out there, I'll sit and have a cigar and just spend some time with my chickens. They'll actually hop up on my lap, and it's funny because they have such interesting. That is actually Dawn squatting down. Once they get to the point that. And different chickens are more skittish than others. Like Longhorns, or Leghorns rather, not Longhorns. Leghorns produce very well, and they're one of the best producing breeds for eggs. But they're also extraordinarily skittish. They aren't like friendly birds necessarily. They're the more
the term flighty comes up.
Yeah,
kind of a little more high strung. They're going back to what we were talking about, layers. So they're producers, as we were talking about, and so kind of a little bit more fretting. What do I do?
Yeah.
When am I going to lay my egg? What's coming next? A little more high-strung activity and energy.
Yep.
You got that going on.
Yeah,
but,
and I have, for those of you listening, I have a Barred Plymouth Rock. That's Checkers, which is a beautiful breed. They're a mixed breed, like you said. They're good for meat and laying. So when she doesn't produce anymore, we will have a gumbo. Like I said, their name is interchangeable.
You have to invite us on the gumbo.
Most definitely. Yeah. And Dawn is my Americana, and I can't wait until she actually starts laying because they're the Easter egg chicken. Whereas right now, the eggs that I'm getting from Checkers, there's a close-up of Checkers in her waddling comb. But the eggs that I'm getting from Checkers are a nice pinkish brown hue. Nice. They're about the size of a grade A egg. They aren't like AA large or anything like that, or extra large.
Are these pictures all on Photobucket?
No, but they will be. I should have populated them to Photobucket before the episode. You are right. I am remiss in my photo duties. That is absolutely correct.
I've noticed the last two times, I've helped you get on corral them in there into their little coop before we leave and come over for the show. It's Dawn that's the one that's kind of more stubborn or the straggler,
Yeah.
She followed me around your yard that one day when she was just little. She wouldn't go with Chris, but she loved me for some reason, and she followed me all around the yard, so I brought her back over, and Chris grabbed her. It's like, chicken friend.
And for me, I just consider it Mardi Gras training. Being a Cajun, that's one of the things at Mardi Gras is we chase chickens. So I just consider it Mardi Gras training myself. But talking about that kind of stuff, talking about regular upkeep, maintenance, that kind of thing, what is it? I don't want to give away everything that's in the class, but what is exactly required to keep a chicken in your backyard and keep one well? Keep a happy chicken. It's no use having an animal to provide food for you that is not a happy animal.
Right. If we wanted that, we can go to.
Yeah, I mean,
a local store.
There are numerous large chain stores I could name.
The eggs are different.
So to provide a good, healthy home, the first thing is make sure they have buddies because chickens are very social animals. And before you even get started, make sure that you know if you can raise them in where you're living. Yeah. The City of Austin does allow in their ordinances in Title III under fowl ordinances or the fowl section, then people to raise chickens. You could raise hens. You can raise roosters. You need to be able to keep them in a clean space, healthy and happy. So that said, you always have to check your own property restrictions.
Absolutely.
So HOA.
Yeah. So although it is allowed to
I live in an HOA.
If you do live in the city, then it is under the ordinance that you can keep chickens, but you have to check with your HOA.
Yeah.
And when you come to the class,
if you're in an HOA restricted neighborhood.
Yeah,
everything
exactly.
else.
And when you come to the class, you'll actually get a copy of that code.
Yeah.
We have some documents that we got from Code as well, and we kind of incorporate it into the class so everybody can know where they are. But as far as I'm concerned, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the code is that it just has to be 50 feet from the dwelling.
The neighboring
from any house.
Oh.
Your house or the neighbor's house.
Oh, besides yours. It can be next to yours. It just has to, it has to be 50 feet from
the noise thing,
ones who aren't raising for owners or handlers.
From the dwelling or the property line?
From the dwelling.
Okay.
And so
if you
dwelling.
That's important to know.
Because,
it's a difference.
like I said, I live in South Austin, and
now
you're looking
at
the Coop? Small half-acre, quarter-acre lots.
The Coop
That's
itself.
the enclosure. So where the chickens, live and run and so forth. But
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And something I want to bring up here that and this has been vetted with the health department is, if you look in the ordinances, and as Memi said, you'll get a copy in the class of them, there's an owner and a handler. So what we've seen happening recently is sometimes neighbors both want chickens. Two neighbors
They
side by
co-op.
side.
They
And they
co-op.
co-op Coop, and they're in compliance because their owner and handler, they share, maybe feed costs, cleaning the coop, eggs and duties.
Okay.
So there's other ways, say that you have two people interested. You don't have to, you can do a co-op coop if you're doing it, and being
that's good to know.
We've heard a lot about that happening with friends that have smaller yards or spaces like that. They'll go in on it together.
And that's the thing is that right now I've only got one. I've only got 1 out of 2 hens producing. So it's not like I'm getting a crazy amount of production. We don't go through a crazy ton of eggs yet. My baby is still 2 months old.
I don't think you're supposed to be the eggs yet.
Not yet. Not yet. But I let him play with them.
Yeah.
I'm just playing. He's not that advanced. But it's the fact of looking ahead, and it's the planning ahead. And that's a big part of sustainability is the planning ahead, the purposeful planning, much like we were talking about with James Dancer last week about making things out of reclaimed wood. My chicken coop is made out of a reclaimed shed. Absolutely. It was literally a shed that had no door.
Right. Most people probably would have gotten rid of it or something.
Had a failing awning on the front, but a decent roof, no holes on the inside of the wall.
Looked pretty bad when I first saw it.
And Chris, you brought up your son. I mean, what a better way to teach the future generations that you can be sustainable. That you don't have to have a store. This huge, or very popular urban farming movement that's been sweeping over Austin. Yeah. It's great. You have your chicken coop, and what you can't feed to them, you can also compost and then have your garden there. And what a better lesson to teach the future generations than, look, you can have a chicken with the eggs. We don't need to go to the store to buy.
No, you don't, and that's just
and stores are great, obviously, but you could provide for yourself.
Yeah,
even in the city,
you absolutely can. You absolutely can. You can even. I was going to say, well, maybe not meat, but no, you got chickens. You can absolutely. I got 2 stumps in my backyard, and I happen to have something big enough.
A little axe.
A little axe. Point there on the whole sustainability in urban farming. If you're getting started in that movement, chickens are a gateway drug because they bring so much. They're educators, they're teachers. They help you understand by watching them that connection. For me, I used to. This is the truth, but I would put scraps like of little extra vegetables in the trash and so forth. When I got chickens, I'm like, wait. This doesn't have to go to the trash. You need to start making those connections. Wait, now what they eat turns into black gold, which I can turn into compost with the leaves. And you start seeing this bigger connection.
And let's talk a little bit about that because you can absolutely make tea tincture, things like that. Yeah. How much chicken manure are you supposed to use in a mix? Because I've heard tell that it's a little hot, and what that means, folks, for those of you that don't garden, don't do that kind of stuff. Whenever your soil mixture is hot, that means it's pretty acidic. So it might be good for growing some things like roses. Things like that require an acidic soil, but you don't, from my understanding, you don't want to use, it's not like cow manure or something like that where you can literally just mix it 50-50 with water and go crazy.
So what you want to do, that's a great point, is it does run hot. So usually you're composting maybe a part, it goes by kind of what you have around sometimes.
Sure.
But maybe 1 part to 3 parts, give or take, on the
greens and the browns.
Yeah. I think it's about that ratio. And then you have fresh air and water. You can have it more browns, truthfully. I sometimes put bags of leaves, and it might be 1 to 10. Yeah. But what you're doing is you're making sure it composts, whether it's by turning it and doing some quickening process or letting it sit by layering it with different browns and then leaves and letting it maybe
Should we explain quickly what the browns and the greens are?
Yes, I was just about to say, please.
Yeah, exactly.
So the browns are leaves and twigs and that type of stuff, and the greens are going to be your food scraps.
Yeah.
And it's basically brown is carbon and green is nitrogen, and those are two big elements for making compost, which we pay. If you go to a garden store, you have this
crazy amount of money for that,
and
it's you're literally throwing it away right now, which is something kind of to go back to that zero waste. You have all of these resources instead of waste at home that you're throwing away and then going to the store and buying something that you literally
and if you've got and what's interesting to me,
threw it away, now you're buying it.
And it's very valuable.
I've gone a little buck wild, I'm not gonna lie. I've not since I was a kid, like young enough to not remember, have I lived in a home. My entire life, I've either lived in apartments or townhomes. So I have shared a common wall, floor, ceiling with people my entire life until this rental property.
Wow.
So for me, it was one of those like, all right, this is my one chance to like do stuff. But even before then, when I lived in my last apartment, I had come to the decision that, I had actually looked at setting up an aquaponics rig in my closet.
Yeah.
Like in my pantry closet, just setting up like a 20-gallon aquarium with some small perch fish or something like that, with some herbs and maybe a small tomato plant and a grow light,
That's
just
really
an
cool.
LED light, and literally having a self-sustaining, like, hey, look, I can eat sunfish every few months that come right out of my aquaponics rig, right into my frying pan, and I can cook them up with the herbs that are in there. Right. And it's interesting to see that, like, even in apartments now, people are starting to like make their own worm beds and stuff like that, like out of 5-gallon buckets and that kind of stuff.
We've seen a lot with we've seen some with the backyard composting rebate. People want to come and learn, but they live in an apartment and they're not.
You can still compost.
You can do community composting. You could do your own, and then you send it to the community garden. We've seen.
You can compost in a 5-gallon bucket.
Absolutely,
it's going to be a little stinky whenever you open it.
The worm one.
I would recommend opening it outside and feeding your compost bucket in your apartment outside.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who, like, I kept herbs in 5-gallon buckets on my outside terrace in my apartment because I cook with herbs.
Yeah.
It was perfectly logical. They grew really well. And during the wintertime, I could literally bring them into the second bathtub and just water them every couple days in there, and they wouldn't freeze over the winter or anything like that.
It's something I'm realizing something that's come up twice is that it also gets us off our screens, right? It makes you go outside and talk to your neighbors and hang out with them.
Yeah.
So you could have, co-parent the chickens or whatever you want to call it. You do the community garden aspect of it, and really getting back to the basics of what community is.
Chickens community.
And it brings everybody together.
Well, and I tell my wife all the time, birds of a feather.
Exactly.
We are literally no different than animals. And if you look at the way that we behave socially, everything else, it's the exact same way. And chickens want to hang out. That's it.
Yeah.
They want to hang out. They want to hang out with other chickens. They don't care what breed the chicken is. They just want to hang out.
Yeah.
They want to be with other chickens. And we, by nature, are social creatures. That's why this podcast started. It encourages people of different points of view to come together and talk. That's the whole idea, is to foster that. And to foster things like community, to foster people coming together for a common good, a common purpose. And how many people do you have that come and take the class, Michelle, that are doing the co-op Coop thing, stuff like that?
Sure. So a lot of the people who are coming to the classes are wanting to learn and get started. So we're seeing, 40 people?
About
50?
30 to 40, 50 people per class. It depends on the location, right?
Yeah,
so some locations accommodate more, some less, but it's been really popular. They fill up.
Good.
We were talking about right before we went on. We announced it late April. I sent out the press release, and we really didn't know what to expect, especially the program manager and myself were not chicken people. Well, we weren't at the time.
It's a subculture.
And we had no idea what to expect. I had bought radio ads and stuff. That was not necessary at all. They filled up within 2 hours.
No, 2 hours.
I've got an app that actually feeds me RSSs from all of my news sources, and one of them is City of Austin, stuff like that. So I get everything from like the Texas House and stuff like that. I get all the news feeds from there.
I'm gonna have to talk to my HOA. That's all I know.
And that's where I found out about it. Was my news feed. It was like, oh my God, I've got to get a hold of these people.
We got so much media and press from it. We were very pleasantly surprised.
I saw the ads.
I did. Going in the right direction.
I mean, you're gonna have,
I saw the advertisements.
You're gonna have the skeptics, right? That are, I think I saw one that said that we had lost our minds or whatever. I think
I didn't see that one.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michelle.
Maybe I'm sure it's happening on a bigger scale at Austin Resource Recovery, but I run the Austin Central Texas Backyard Poultry Meetup, and because of that, I get a lot of messages that come through Meetup to me. I've gotten a lot saying, how do I get my city to do what you guys are doing?
I've got a lot of
questions. Awesome.
See, that's
Here's
awesome.
my
I got a lot of interest from other cities calling me.
Here's my question. How do we organize a poultry show in Austin?
A poultry
show?
What, like a dog show?
Yeah.
We have those.
Will there be obstacle courses?
Yeah, there could be.
Right? I mean, I'm game for that.
There could be. There could be like a chicken hat competition.
The fowl follies.
Fowl follies. I like that. I like
a talent competition.
In a more informal way, we have the Funky Chicken Coop Tour, which is a poultry show across the whole city.
And that's just it. Whenever I first moved to Austin, there are so many things that happen that are kitsch Austin, things like the Festival of Lights, things like the Austin Home and Garden Tour.
Dude, the chicken thing was like totally go over huge, man.
That was the chicken coop tour.
At Ginny's, the chicken.
I was within 2 months of moving here when it happened the first time, to my knowledge, and it was like, this is awesome. It was right after I had started keeping a flock of chickens with my brother, and to see like the Funky Chicken Coop Tour, like all these people that make their own unique chicken shelters and all that kind of stuff. Explain a little bit about that tour and how it got started and where it is now.
Sure. So the Funky Chicken Coop Tour is a tour of homes and gardens, finer homes and gardens of the feathered kind. It's a backyard. A lot of people just open their backyard to show people what they're doing with their chickens and other poultry. Ducks have been on the tour.
My
Quail
backyard
have been
is
on the
not
tour.
attractive.
And I say it's
a great repurpose project.
Yeah.
It is. And we take, functional, funky, fabulous, whatever it may be, but it's just showing and sharing, and it brings back to community. It happens the Saturday of Easter weekend. The first one was 2009. We're coming up on 2018, so however many years that is. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
It started with just 4 of us on doing our chicken at the
chicken
time.
Chat.
Chicken chat online and some online forum. And somehow, I don't know, we started seeing connections. Someone put out there, we should have a coop tour.
Yeah.
And at the time, there were very few. There was maybe under 10 across the U.S., a lot in the Northwest and some other places.
As beautiful as my Barred Rock is, I could never show her because the wings are clipped. So
it would be a great education.
Well, but I mean, as far as a competition goes, it's one of those. It wouldn't fit within the regulations of the guidebook, things like that.
True. Standard of perfection.
Yes, exactly.
Sorry, bro. You don't get the blue ribbon, but
no, but I could probably go for like most functional and breed.
To your point about true poultry shows, there's a huge one. There are poultry shows in Texas, and College Station has a huge one in January put on. It's called the Bluebonnet Classic.
Oh, wow.
It's by the Brazos Valley Poultry Club. And if you want to go and just learn about chickens and just see any and every breed and other poultry, that is the place to go. There's just thousands out there, just like a dog.
What would you say is the most exotic chicken right now for this, area?
A lot of people like fancy-looking chickens. If you want to, like the top knot Polish, or the little fluffy ones that don't even look like they have feathers, silkies.
Yeah, really. I love a silky.
There's silkies and there's a super furry one. Is that the ones with the fur on the feet, kind of like that?
Yes, I think silkies have some.
Silkies
feathers,
do,
and they're very soft. They're very good mommies. They're good at sitting on eggs. What's called going broody. They like to hatch chickens. So once you have chickens, you might want more. So that's when it's good to have someone in your flock who wants to be an egg
like
setter.
A nurturer.
Are there chickens that maybe don't traditionally get along or aren't as friendly, that you may not want to if you're going to have a bigger flock?
Sure. You definitely want to do your research, because just like dogs, you have a Chihuahua and then you might have a Whippet. Depending on their needs, they're very different. And you have that same spectrum.
And you don't want to have like a Chihuahua and a Malamute at the same time, because they're like both really crazy high energy, but in totally different ways. You know? So, like your upkeep is going to be insane at that point.
Like there's a pit bull of chickens, kind of.
Well,
there's some that want to be. They don't want to be caged. They don't want confinement. They're a little bit wilder, and so for that reason, you wouldn't want to get maybe what I would call what was traditionally maybe for fighting birds, or a little bit more free-range jungle birds.
Well,
ones that are good are things like Orpingtons, the rocks like barred rocks, buff Orpingtons. Australorps do great here because the heat. Here in Texas, we don't have to worry about the cold with the chickens. It's the heat.
Well, what about that one time it freezes?
The one time it freezes.
The one time it freezes.
There's that one time.
Here's the general rule of thumb. And it's the same thing with food. If you wouldn't eat it, don't feed it to your chickens.
Right.
That's the general rule of thumb. So, like, it's one of those, you think about scrap foods. And it's a big thing to consider, because we're talking about this as a reuse and a repurpose project, and as a composting. You can't really like give your chickens raw onions or like raw garlic necessarily.
We have some, and that information's in the handout. City
and
class.
it's something to consider, because and like I said,
you are what you eat.
What would you eat? Would you naturally go to? And granted, when I was a kid, I was a freaky kid, but I loved a purple onion, and I would eat one like an apple.
You were just kind of strange.
But most definitely. And that's a purple onion. It's a sweet Vidalia. It's not like a yellow onion or a white onion. But at the same time, are you going to go up and just take a hunk and bite out of raw garlic? No, not necessarily.
Yeah, right.
So, maybe the garlic green, like if it starts to sprout, you could probably cut off the garlic green and give that to your chickens. But probably not the garlic bulb, and definitely not anything I consider anyway as a bulb plant.
Yeah.
Do I give
anything
to
that's gone bad, correct?
Right.
Not your garbage disposal.
Exactly.
The best way to have a healthy flock is to be proactive and be feeding fresh food, making sure they have great ventilation, that they have fresh water. If it's water you wouldn't be willing to drink, it's not good for your chickens either, or your flock. And with that good ventilation, on those times it does freeze, as long as it's not getting condensation, and we're not talking like 30 days, it's just a couple days, they're going to be fine. If you're really worried, you could put a little red heat lamp or something in there to give them a little extra.
Well, and that's just
I don't usually do
They're okay in the hot weather.
Yeah, what about now?
The hot weather.
In the hot weather, water.
Okay.
Same as with the dog, same as with the cat that you let outside.
My dog does it.
Water, shade in areas where they can get ventilation. So you don't want it in some still corner. If that's the case, get them a fan or a little mister you can get at local hardware stores.
I actively, everybody just posted a little video today because I saw it and it was so awesome. It was literally a DIY air conditioner out of a fan and a piece of copper tubing and a bucket.
And I saw that a few years ago when I was on Facebook.
Yeah, it was like, hey, all right, because backyard chickens, things like that. Like I said, my chicken coop has a fan. It's got a fan to circulate the air that way, because they lay at different times. They don't always lay early. You're not going to go out at 6 a.m. all the time.
You don't want to have a hard boiled when you get out there.
They're literally on like Mars time.
Yeah. There you go.
They're like a couple hours in addition to us.
Okay.
Like we're on a 24-hour rotation. Mars is on like a 25 and a half. That's like chicken clock.
I haven't checked Mars,
it's
but
a little bit odd. But even like my wife, she's finally started to cue into when Checkers has laid, because they're social. They will literally come and tell you. Like, I'm the head of the flock. They will come and tell me, like, outside. You will hear them through the glass door clucking. Like, hey.
Come get it.
Yeah, they're like,
just so you know, hey, come here and check this out.
You
should give me a treat. Come here and look at what I did.
Look what I did for you.
Like when your cat brings you a mouse or a bird.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, but she wouldn't lay an egg, and she comes and tells me. And
you can give them in-season treats. So to the heat right now, like watermelon
rind. Speaking of watermelon, we did that.
Watermelon,
and even the rind. What's left is just, it looks like paper from the green on the outside.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Or frozen grapes, something like that will help cool them. Little pans of water that are shallow, so they can put it in their feet. Little mud wallows.
They'll actually like put their feet in it.
Yeah,
You know if they're doing that, they actually are feeling that.
That's the thing. Number
they're drawn
one,
to that.
especially in a backyard. Be ready for a little invasion on your life, folks. The same way as you may come out and find a present from your dog.
Yeah.
On your concrete patio, you'll probably find quite a few landmines from your chicken. Because unfortunately they're birds, and much the same way that I had my yard seeded by birds, because they have to maintain a certain weight in order to maintain flight. So they have to poop before they take off if they've eaten.
Yep.
That's just a rule.
Yeah. What's great about that?
It's like me before going to work.
All of their poop is high in nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium,
it's great.
NPK.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, and that's just it. It cost me $3, and it's a little fireman type hose that's high pressure, and I go out once a day and I wash down my patio.
I bet you make the yard happy where it's washing.
And
right.
It's and not only that, but it makes a mud wallow on the side that they absolutely love. They don't like getting wet.
That's true.
Every once in a while, don't spray them down. You could probably have a little fun and chase them once or twice with the hose. It ain't gonna hurt them, but
and what's good for the efficiency nerds or automated nerds, the time of most of the deposits, it happens in the day. But if you want to know when the most of it happens, it's while they're sleeping. They're multitasking. They're sleeping on their perch and also giving black gold deposits.
Really?
So,
like the baby.
Yeah.
Just like a bat.
They're multitasking, huh?
Yeah. So that'll give you a way for those who want to design their coop, their dream coop. They can think about that and make their big collection area maybe under the
and that's an important thing to realize is as you build a coop, there are a few things that you need. What are some of the essentials that you need?
Yeah, what are the essentials?
Just like in the state of Texas or any state in the union, there are minimum coating laws. Yeah. There is a bare minimum. Like my landlord does not have to provide a refrigerator. Because I can keep my food in an ice chest if I need to. But they do have to provide running water. They do have to provide hot water. They do, there are minimum things that you have to provide. What do you, at a minimum, need in a coop?
You need to be able to have some kind of shelter that'll keep the rain on them, off of them. So something overhead that'll keep the sun off, give them shade, keep them safe. So a good enclosure, you need some place to give them feed, a place to give them water, a place for grit. Grit helps them break down their food. You need bedding. Grit is little pebbles, usually of granite or different kinds.
Yep.
And
they eat it?
And they will eat it.
Because don't they have like a craw or something?
They do. If you've ever had gizzards, that's where it's getting broken down and mashing their food.
Yep.
So
they're the same way. They're the same way as fish. Yeah. Fish do the same thing. Some reptiles do the same thing, where they actively will eat rocks, things like that, because they've got a gullet. Yeah. They don't have a stomach like us that has acid. So they've got a muscle that's their stomach, so they actively eat these pebbles and stuff. And as they walk and move around, it does the grinding that our teeth do.
Right. So somehow the chicken and the fish are like self-conscious of what they need to do to digest food and break it down. And
they know what they need to do, and that's
pretty awesome. In
nature. I've got a good amount of dirt, gravel, things like that in my backyard, so I don't tend to use a lot of grit because they've got grit that they scratch on all day long in the backyard.
I used to not do that either because the same thing. We have limestone out the wazoo.
Yeah.
So and it depends. It's so funny because in the backyard movement, we're on a smaller scale. If someone were raising for on pasture, like a healthy way of poultry, poultry production, they will always tell you use grit, because if you were to take a backyard and take a foot by a foot and shift and sift it and see what's left in sizing, it needs to be a certain size for them, they say.
Right. Yeah, right.
So I kind of done it both ways, but I thought that's interesting because I'm like, it's not that expensive, it doesn't go bad. So I'm kind of now starting to experiment.
Well, and one thing that you do have to be careful with, especially that so many people don't consider, and it's the same way with your dog, it's the same way with your cat. People consider what you're feeding them, think about what you're feeding them. If you're a person of a little bit of means, please, good God, go with a lower grain.
Yes.
With your mammals, but with your birds especially, don't go with straight corn.
Right.
Like scratch feeds, things like that. It's literal. It's candy.
Yeah.
It's candy.
Yeah.
It's a treat.
Yes.
It's a treat.
That's exactly right. And in this type of heat, it raises their energy. Their
That's right.
BTU gets them hotter. So scratch is great for the winter if you have a little handful.
That's right. It's good for fattening.
Yeah.
If you're trying to rapidly fatten some chickens, feed them a 50-50 mix.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Other than that, if you're trying to have laying hens, you probably want to keep some of the meat off of them for a little while. Right. Simply because it's going to keep them more active. It's going to...
Right. If you overfeed, they get obese just like humans,
That's
and
it.
they'll go down in laying production. And
Yeah. They go into meat production.
They sure
mode.
don't.
But you were saying, and I know there's a perch, right?
Right.
All the stuff?
So there's also roosts you want, or roosts for sleeping at night. You want nest boxes.
Mm-hmm.
You want litter on the ground, or bedding material so they can scratch because they're natural scratchers. And you want a place they can have a dust bath. That's how they keep themselves clean.
Right. I remember that.
Oh my God,
I had my chickens. Yes.
I
remember
Dawn today. I should have taken a picture. Literally, it looked like she had been like a dog and gone for a roll in the dirt.
Yeah.
And it was like, come here, you got some dust on your back, and it was like chunks coming out from underneath her fur. It was like there are no mites or anything back here, honey. But it's literally
good for the
how
dust
they cool
bath?
down.
What's good for that?
Good for the dust bath? Well, you want a little depression where they can kind of be secluded, and probably like ash from, say, you burn your firewood. That can go in there.
Diatomaceous earth.
DE on some level, mixed on a little bit of the level. Soil just from your yard. I've seen where they've dug out, well, it's like a shared, we have dogs too, a shared dust bath / cooling pit, and it's this big old circumference, and they all just dig in there deeper. So they use the natural soil if they have it. Yeah. So soil, ash, a little bit of DE, anything like that.
And you'll see that behavior naturally. Wow. Like if you look around my backyard, like I said, at one point I was scooping all the leaves from that huge canopy oak in my backyard into a corner to compost them. And once I got the chickens, I was like, I'm just letting that roam right now, because that's nothing but stuff for them to scratch in and find bugs and everything else. Yeah. That's free food for my chickens that will then provide food for me.
And that's a really good point. Not all food has to come from a bag. So that's exactly what you're illustrating right now. I mean, bugs everywhere. You can do black soldier fly larvae. That's really easy to do. More waste. All of that kind of stuff that builds.
And one of the things I supplement mine with is mealworms.
Yeah, there you go.
Mealworms. And I mean, I get them by the pound and a half for like $7-8 on Amazon. And I throw each of them a handful a couple times a day, and that lasts me like a month or so. Yeah. Something like that. But it's their treat, but it's high in protein. It's nothing but pure protein. And, much like us, like we need protein, we need roughage, we need all these things, and our birds need the same thing.
Yes. They eat about a quarter, if it were commercial feed, about a standard size grown bird, about a quarter cup of feed a day, roughly speaking. And like I said, from that, you could still have some of that instead of being a quarter pound that you're paying from a store. Put in your mealworms, put in your bugs, put in your table scraps.
Whatever's left over from your salad.
One of mine that I've found my birds love is oats.
Yep, they love it. And
oats. They go crazy for it. And it is so entirely cheap. It's like 99 cents for like a pound of oats.
And another tip, if you sprout that goes even further.
Wow.
And it's easy to sprout. You can Google sprouting oat seeds, and you'll see all kinds of easy videos for that. So
cool.
We at the office have a chicken enthusiast. She's my cube mate and my counterpart. But what we'll do at home, and she asks us, like, I will take like that bag of tortilla chips that I need, or like if I have that, we will take it to her at work. So we all kind of feed the chickens.
Ramen that hits the ground, whatever.
Every now and then she'll bring us half a dozen eggs.
Here's the thing,
so really nice.
Even as a Cajun folks, I'm here to tell you, cooked rice, sure.
Yes.
All day long. Never uncooked rice.
That is
never uncooked rice.
Yes.
Any grain that swells like that, you want to give them the grain pre-swollen. So that's something that's kind of a caveat. Corn doesn't tend to do that. A lot of grains don't tend to really swell that way. Yeah. Oats don't necessarily swell to the extent. So whenever they go and drink water, it's not a danger, like that's why you see most churches like, no, you got to throw bird seed. You got to throw bird seed if they even let you throw anything, because it's just a liability.
Yeah, I think now it's just bubbles. Oh, interesting. I like sparkles.
Oh, yeah. I wish sparklers. That'd be great. My church did not allow that. There was none of that.
No sparklers.
We did bells, I think.
Yeah, we did bells and bubbles.
Yeah. So, and it's funny because a lot of these things sound like common sense, but not a lot of people have kept birds. I guess I've kept birds in my life. Yeah. Like you were saying before the show, parakeets, things like that. So, it's one of those. How often do you feed your animal? Well, it's outside. It's not a sedentary animal necessarily, even though it's a nester. Mm-hmm. They're active. They're roamers. That's what they do. So, you need to feed them regularly. You need to make sure that that's there. You need to make sure that water definitely this time of year is available to your birds. And now, have you ever seen the fact of people having the roost and the nesting separately? Because I've seen that in a few places. But
I've seen, you mean like the roost inside the coop and the nest outside the coop?
Yeah, or vice versa even.
Sometimes wherever you put them, if they're within proximity of each other in the same, you want the roost to be the highest point that they can land on.
Right.
Because they want to perch at the highest point. So sometimes I have, but mainly the biggest thing is I see it better when it's kind of all in one place. They know where to go and
like
congregated together. Yeah, and I guess the other thing is just making sure it's really secure. We've talked about you love your chickens, everything out there loves it more. And whether you're in an urban environment, country environment, there's plenty of daytime and nighttime predators who would love to meet MEAT your chickens. So
well, and even beyond predators, house animals, because that's something that you have to consider, especially with suburban chicken keeping, things like that. If you've got big dogs, if you've got dogs that are
hunters,
ours are they get birds.
If you've got a rat terrier, things like that, like they were bred to hunt.
Actually, my first chicken was
Chihuahuas bred
devoured by my dog.
Oh,
there you go.
Horatio.
Yeah,
and you can't really blame the dog necessarily.
You can't take them out of that. Now, like if you've
I came back, and
if you've got a border collie, you may have a little bit of an issue with nipping, but typically
trying to herd them.
A border collie will be herding them into one place to begin with.
Right.
And so someone once said, and I thought this is really good advice. It's like, how good of a is the relation with the human and the dog? Like, is the dog a pleaser? Do they listen to you and look to you for direction, or do they just have those really strong natural? They do, but they also have the really strong instincts.
Right.
And so sometimes it's a gamble. It's like you really don't know which way it's going to go.
Right.
I had
and some breeds are better than others.
Yeah, like Blue Heeler. For me, the working dog, she was great. She well, it's really funny. She was already about 5 or 6 when I got chicks, and she was the best dog I've ever had. But with that, it was really funny because the first time I showed her the chicks, I never heard this, but I heard her smack her lips, and I went, But she listens to us, and she was wonderful. She was a guardian for them. She kept
and that's the thing. My cat,
that's interesting.
Cat.
Well, she was. Did she think she was the alpha? The alpha protecting her.
She was. That was part of her job too.
Yeah.
She had to make sure she understood she couldn't hurt him. That was frustrating. She's like, chickens, you just can't. You can't bring them. But she still looked.
I at least got to keep track of them and make sure that these things are reined in.
Well, you gave her a job.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean,
you need jobs.
You symbiotically fed a system, and it's great to do that. Even my cats have gotten to the point, because oddly enough, like I told you before, I was seeding the wild birds for my backyard and to get the undergrowth going. And my cat is her name, because she was a rescue cat from my mom's neighbor's backyard. Her entire litter had died and didn't know if she would or not. Yeah. So I rescued her, didn't give her a name because I'm not going to get attached. Yep. And before I knew it, she responded to Cat and she lived. So I named her Catherine Pride after Kitty Pryde from the X-Men. So I could still call her Cat. And she could respond to the name that she was used to. But she being a cat that spent time outdoors, everything else, definitely, like, she used to bring me butterflies that were, like, still partially alive. Mm-hmm. And, like, show me, like, look at what I'm doing. Look at this. Oh, yeah, look. Like, it's trying to get away, but look at me. You know, like, number one, skills on bringing me a live butterfly. Proper.
Job security.
You know, now if I could only train you to bring me squirrels on demand.
Oh, no kidding.
My dogs will bring you
or
squirrels.
rabbits. Sweet. We need to talk more, Julie.
My Chihuahua has killed a rat that's about her size.
Okay.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Well, that's a proper city rat.
Out there and finish the job. I think she mained.
She took care of the rat.
Yeah, she did.
She handled the rat.
Wow.
She handled the rat.
Her business. Took care of her business.
And, you know, because of that, it was one of those like, hey, sure, if I'm getting 23 doves at a time, I will absolutely encourage my cat to take out a dove or two here and there.
Yep.
I got no problem cooking up a dove that just ate it in my backyard.
But then once the chickens come, were you like, this is not a dove,
that was just it.
Chicken.
And it took a little training. Right. And Kat definitely got it. Like, it took her a week or so, and she had it down that, like,
Did you have any difficulty with any of the cats when it came to the chickens?
No, not really.
Not really.
Like I said, it took about a week or so of training.
Animals know when they're your family and when they're not.
Yeah.
Like, my parents had a puppy, a little Shar-Pei puppy, and a kitten. And they were best friends.
Right.
But then that cat used to get beat up all the time by other neighborhood cats, and he would lure them into our backyard, and they would meet their demise from the Shar-Pei.
Well, and see, that's the thing is that
they were buds.
We had a neighborhood feral that was visiting us for a while, and
a neighborhood ferret.
Feral.
Oh, okay, that
feral
makes more
cat.
sense. Yes.
I wish it was a ferret.
Weird.
When I was little, one bit my big toe, and that's a true story. It was a ferret, and he bit my big toe. He was a pet.
I don't ever want to hear about a ferret biting your toe again. That's just like creepily wrong.
My aunt had it, and it was running around, and I was watching Wizard of Oz, and he bit my big toe.
Well, yeah.
True story.
I don't think any of us have that.
Yeah.
It's very specific.
Well, and, you know, it is one of those that it took them a little while. It took Leon, oddly enough, who was like the house cat of house cats. Like, Julie remembers whenever we moved from our 1-bedroom apartment, like, down and diagonally to our 2-bedroom apartment, he actively, like, walked down half the flight of stairs and got lost. And was in, like, the worst state of panic that you could ever imagine. And it's like, dude, you are, like, 15 feet away from the front door of your home right now.
Right here.
Did you not smell your way to that at all?
Now
like,
you know his mental
cat's
capacity.
Like, my cat's like, don't give a damn. She knows where she's going, and she's coming back. You know, she pretty much comes whenever I call her, but... it did take, oddly enough, Leon a little bit longer to get over that mentality of like, ooh, there's something really big to go chase.
Yeah.
Well, and besides the domestic pets, you have everything. People go like, would this hurt a chicken? You'd be surprised. Right. I mean, it's all sizes, shapes. They come from under the coop if there's a way to get in, over the coop, sideways. So you got snakes. You have, raccoons. We've talked about. They have those mandible hands.
Yep. Yeah, they've got opposable thumbs.
Yep,
they really do.
You got opossums, skunks, hawks, owls. Now I'm just naming a few: foxes, coyotes.
That are all within the city limits of Austin.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, we have all of
every one of them.
In Sendero,
what about
in my
rats?
neighborhood.
Do they steal the? What about animals that come and steal the eggs?
Rats more the eggs than the chickens themselves.
Yeah.
That and the snakes.
And what you can do to cut that down is if you really want your coop to be Fort Knox, it doesn't have to be beautiful, but like hardware cloth. That's the 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch.
Yep.
That keeps most everything out, including rodents. But you put a barrier at the bottom too. So
you bury it a good 6 inches under the ground. That way, if they try to burrow underneath,
sneakies,
that kind of stuff. So like even if you're putting chicken wire up, you don't just want to put it to ground surface.
Right. Yeah.
You want to dig a trench a good 6 inches deep, bury it down, and then bury it up underneath. That way, any burrowing animals.
But no,
because most burrowing animals, like any of them, they're going to pop up like a dog or a cat or something. They typically aren't going to dig anywhere beyond the width of their body or half the width where they can squeeze through.
Right. I give them an extra challenge. If this is the coop, if my coop ends at a certain point, then if I come out an extra 6 to 8 inches just laterally with, some kind of fencing, then I'm like, go find. It gives them
animals won't dig on the ground.
If you go absolutely prisoner camp with it, where it's like 2 layers of fencing. One of them that's about a foot off the ground, that's about 3 or 4 inches away from your main high fencing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Then it's like you said, much more of a deterrent. If you can actually make that path happen, even taking the end of if you leave a good 8 or 9 inches on the top of your coop and actually curl the fencing to the outside. Yes. It makes it hard for them to be able to climb over the top. It's definitely.
But it can look attractive.
But they're not trying to get out.
But it's so practical to keep things in and keep things out.
They're trying to get in.
It's a horrible concept, but you're right.
We don't have to put the barbed wire at the top.
No. We don't need concertina wire here.
And there's a way you angle it when you want to keep something out rather than keep them in.
Yeah, it's literally that curve to the outside, because if you've ever played with chicken wire, there are odds and ends. It's a hexagonal pattern. So as you cut it, there are gnarls and barbs and stuff. So if you curl it over, it's literally like barbed wire coming off the top. And it'll keep things like raccoons.
Or if you want to go like real super high tech, which
like
maybe you would do, like electrify that top part.
Well, you could, but the problem is that could carry over to the fence, with which your chickens may actually cuddle up against.
And you don't want fried chicken
just yet. You don't want fried chicken yet.
Just yet.
Not until they stop
but what they do have,
still producing.
What they do have is actually like flashing LED lights that alternate and things like that in the dark, so it mimics the eye movement of a predator in the chicken coop. Stuff like that, kind of like if you were like flashlighting a dog or a cat and you saw their eyes like flash at you. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's typically bigger and more offset than what your typical predators are, like a coyote or your raccoon or possum, things like that.
Dope, man.
So they tend to think that something bigger than them is there,
right,
and try to leave it alone.
So Michelle, what's the most high tech coop you've seen through these chicken tours,
especially in Austin, the high-tech city of high-tech cities?
I've seen a lot of automation around chicken doors, for example. That starts because people want to. What happens is chickens go out in the morning and they have to come up about dusk or a little before, so that all these predators we're talking about don't have an extra meal.
Right.
So, but people don't necessarily always get home at those times or want to have to,
especially in the winter when the days are short.
I am not the only nerd that has thought about this, because I've been considering this for my coop. So go ahead.
So there's an automated chicken door that you can program it to come open at different times. There's multiple on the market, but I've seen some that also have the second chance. So it opens, it closes at a given time, and then 5 minutes later it opens briefly one more time for the straggler.
Like, come on,
for the straggler.
So you can get that kind of high tech that way.
Dawn.
I've seen people doing little chicken cameras, the chicken on the nest box, so they can see the
like
leg.
A nanny cam or
that's cool,
dude.
I'm down with that.
See, I know there are people in Austin doing that.
Automated feeders.
Right.
That's something that would be my quest, a way to measure it and whatnot. But
because I went hardcore with my baby monitor, like of course, whenever you're having a baby, it's just
especially
like
the first one,
just like getting married. Like everybody sends you things, and it's like, oh, you should get this. Oh, you should check into this. And whenever you have a baby, it was one of those like, oh, what should we get for a baby monitor? And all these people sent things to my wife, and I was like, all right, here's the thing.
Oh, like the thing that goes under your crib.
None of that can plug into my HD video mixer. So we need to get something that can interface with my HD video mixer.
I'm sure
so that after we're done with it with the baby, it can be repurposed and reused.
Chicken
TV.
So I'm down.
That's awesome.
I like it. I've got a couple of Wi-Fi infrared cameras.
We're gonna go out to your chicken coop one day, and it's gonna be like Willy Wonka, dude.
Oh no, they've already got it pretty nice. Like they've got, like I said, they've got a space that's almost the size of this studio, which is right at 10 foot by 10 foot. So your average prison cell is what we're sitting in, folks.
Thanks for the reminder.
Literally with no window. but it's about half the size of this. So I mean, for 2 chickens, they've got quite a bit of room, and that's something to consider. How much room do you need per chicken for roosting and nesting? Because that goes into account. Yeah. Like we said, you got to be 50 feet away from the neighbor's domicile, stuff like that. But how much room does that take up? What size footprint do you need for, let's say, a 4-chicken flock?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm going to break the space chickens need to your point. It's kind of like for their essential needs for the eating, the roosting, and so forth, and then the extra for the foraging and so forth. So for a standard sized bird, you probably want, and some, as we know, are smaller, some are a little bigger, but roughly 3 to 4 square feet per bird for the roosting, nesting, the housing size.
For the coop.
The coop itself.
The coop itself.
And then after that, you want additional space, as much extra as you can per bird, but maybe an extra 6 square feet if you can, so that they can forage a little, have a little space, not feel like someone's right up next to them the whole time. It isn't. If you can oversize it more than that, it's great. 20 square feet per bird, 4 square feet plus extra to get 20 square feet is great. But if you can go, 8 to 10 square feet, you're in good shape still for a smaller lot.
Wow. Well, and those are all things to consider, especially whenever you're talking about, keeping an animal, stuff like that. I was always one of those people. It's not that I'm not a dog person. It's that living in apartments and townhouses my whole life and not having an actual backyard, I could never fathom having a dog, because I could never put them out in the backyard. I mean,
my Chihuahua doesn't.
Well, and it's the same thing with cats. There are some cats that are outdoor cats and want to roam and want to do that stuff and are active stalkers, and some of them that are more sedentary. Right. And it's the same way with chickens. There are some, like you said, silkies tend to be more of a broody.
Yes.
The Americana that I have is much more of a broody hen, and that means they're more prone to want to sit and nest than they are to want to go out and roam all day and things like that. They're much more happy sitting on a clutch than they are, out scratching with the rest of the hens.
Right.
They'd much rather cluck in the house.
They're going to Netflix it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're going to sit back and binge watch.
That's where it's at.
And
that's my type of chicken. Right
that's just it. And it's something that you do have to consider as you're buying a flock, as you're considering getting into it. Number one, are you going for pure production? Are you going for production and family friendly? Do you have kids? If you have kids, they're probably going to be prone to chase a chicken. So you better have a chicken that's okay with being chased. Otherwise,
you can outrun them.
Not just that. They got beaks and they got claws, and they really don't care. If they're cornered, they will absolutely put.
I know when I was young,
flop up in the air,
would chase my ass.
Oh yeah,
I know that.
I've heard that story so many times.
I'd go harvest the eggs or something, and
that
rooster didn't take no shit off my little ass.
Hell no,
he'd come after me.
Especially if you have a flock of geese.
I was scared of that.
My great grandmother had a guard goose. My mom tells us that story all the time.
Oh yeah,
it was mean.
Oh yeah, they will bite you.
The great thing is there's so many docile breeds that are great for family. That are gentle, that do well, and you see. The whole family loving on their flock. So that's what's great. You can, if you want one that's a little more, makes you have your active and chase them, you can find those too. But
and like we said, they're all pretty much social animals. So it's not like fish. You will, if you put a cichlid with some goldfish, Godspeed to the goldfish, folks. Don't name them. The cichlids are just territorial unless there's a bigger cichlid. They're going to jack with anything smaller than them. That's just the way it works. There's a reason why there is a term called henpecked. Dawn, I know, is probably lagging in production by about a week in all theory, from when her wattle and comb came in to now. And some of that may be to henpecking because checker, there's only 2 of them in the flock.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of them. There's not a whole lot of them to put somebody in check.
So
like you said,
does she kind of bully her?
Checkers,
is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what henpecking means. If you've ever heard of the henpecked husband,
you need support group.
It's the dude that like he just keeps his mouth shut in the crowd because the wife's gonna be like,
yeah, he was in the middle of a sentence and then boom, he shuts up.
But it's we do it all the time, and it's funny because they're social critters, but
and they have the hierarchy for that henpecking, and so if you have a flock, there's always going to be a number one, and there's going to be a bottom,
and that's regardless if there's a rooster, right?
Right. That's just within the chicken
hen
hierarchy.
community.
It could be the hens too.
Wow. Okay. I was wondering
and
about that.
It's literally, it's almost the fact like I have to deceive Checkers so I can give treats to Dawn.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I have to actively like bait her over here and then throw stuff behind her to Dawn,
we have to do that
like
with our
3
dogs,
feet
too,
away,
the big one
and
will
then
do
throw
that
some
with
more
the
over here.
street.
Because if Checkers hears that hit, she's going to turn around and go to that. Because she just heard other food laying. So I better immediately throw some more right there where she is to keep her distracted so Dawn can actually get some.
Sounds like Dawn needs a buddy system.
Well, it's funny because at the beginning it was not that way because they all came from a community flock of about 8 birds. Up in Round Rock. And because they were in a community flock, it really depends on when they were introduced to the flock. The size of the flock, number-wise, as well as the size of the flock genetically. If there's more barred rocks than Americanas, the barred rocks tend to be almost twice the girth, weight-wise, of an Americana. So
does that give them
they get a little bit more push when it comes time to the feeding line, when they push, they got some weight behind them. So when they peck, they're...
It's like that one guy wanting his cornbread.
No, I don't think you get me. That's my cornbread right now. Until I'm done with the cornbread, then you're more than welcome to have some cornbread, my friend. And that's pretty much the way it works. And it's interesting to see that come about. And you really do learn the personalities of your animals that way.
And that connection brings you back to the earth. Like all those sayings, like you said, henpeck, birds of a feather flock together. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. You start watching and you go,
that's what that means.
No,
it all makes sense even on another level too. Like 2 different ways. It makes sense.
Totally.
Well, and it's such a study on humanity. Number one, just like anybody who says that dogs are like their owners, I will firmly admit there are traits that my chickens have that are most definitely me. That I don't know that they necessarily had when I got them. And like I know that they definitely, whenever I got them, did not leap 4 feet in the air for a raisin.
Wow.
That wasn't their gig. That's not what they did. I taught them to do that. And that's pretty cool. Like I love the fact that I've got something that's a chicken that has the brain of a chicken, but can do
tricks for you.
It can not just do tricks, but actually show some emotion. It's pretty wild. Like you can tell when they're scared. You can tell when they're flustered. I can tell sitting in my living room by the cluck outside whether there's something in the backyard that they don't like. Like I said, we had that feral cat that was coming around that I was totally cool with hanging out with my cats. Hey, I'd even leave it some some and stuff. It's a hot Texas day. If I got a bottle of water, I'll give it to anybody standing on the side of the road.
But now it thinks you're leaving it a snack.
And that's just it. And it came to the point, where it was like, hey, I need to get me like a high-powered squirt gun or like an airsoft or something and just scare them away. And that happened a few times, and I've literally seen the cat like twice in the 2 months that we've had the chickens since then, because not only has it learned, but my cat's learned that though we're social with you, dude,
you can't be here anymore.
You can't. These chickens. Like
I wish you well, but
these are protected now, and you can't be in here like hunting these, because like that's how I knew he was in the yard for the first time in a while, was my chickens.
Yeah.
They made sounds that were quite obviously like
scared.
Disturbed, scared sounds.
Definitely.
And much like I said with them ducking, things like that, they have an utter body language to them when it comes to overhead predators on the ground. If they see something off in the distance, you'll see them stop and raise their head up.
Right.
Kind of like a meerkat and like look off. And it's like, oh, what's over there?
I know all that.
What's happening over there?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I remember all that. Yeah.
And typically, if you've got a rooster, the main reason to have a rooster is number one, to breed.
Yes.
Other than that, really the only reason to have a rooster in your flock is protection. They tend to keep a little bit more of an eye out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely do not have two roosters at the same time, folks. I know. Hey, it sounds.
If it's a small backyard flock, it's like 1 to 10, one rooster to 10 chickens. So if you have a small
if you have like a big
Well,
farm,
and
I know they recommend not having roosters in the city
well,
because of the noise ordinance.
Because of the noise.
Right?
Oh,
Because of the
that's
noise
true.
There's a
ordinance.
noise
Well,
ordinance.
'cause-
if you don't not in a bigger area where it's cool, right? Always be mindful of.
Do you guys kind of go over all of that in the classes that you
We
have?
do.
Yeah.
We definitely do.
When is the next one that's coming up?
The next one is this Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. at
Nice.
Recycled Reeds on Burnett Road.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you can find
okay.
all the information about the classes at austintexas.gov/chickenkeeping. Upcoming classes, there's contact info on there if you want to email us with specific questions. One thing I just wanted to point out about the class itself and the rebate is that you have to pay the clean community fee on your City of Austin bill to be eligible for the rebate.
Okay.
And you cannot have used the rebate for the backyard composter before, but everybody's welcome to come to the
double
class.
dipping. Imagine that.
It comes out,
in a city fund, there's no double dipping.
It comes out
What's
of
that
one
about?
fund. It comes out of one fund.
No double dipping.
Yeah.
Who would
But
have ever thought of
absolutely anybody can come and learn to keep chickens and take advantage of the materials and the resources that we have available.
Well, and that's just it. The fact that a city has actively come forward and said that this is something that is not just efficacible. It's good.
Yes.
It's a good thing. Because I'm sorry, my chickens.
I think it was more pushed by the people.
Well, I think so, but
You have to have a city, though.
But not necessarily. Because I mean, really, what you need for the movement of the people is an overwhelming push. And I'm sorry, I love chickens just as much as you do, Michelle, as you can obviously tell.
Yes.
I'm passionate about my ladies, but I don't think that there are enough people passionate about chickens.
And to be honest with you,
for there to be a tipping point vote-wise.
I had to do quite a bit of research today to find out where this idea came from in the first place. And as I think it was one or two citizens mentioned it to the previous program manager.
Yeah.
When it came to my desk and it was time for me to implement it, I was like, this is really cool. But it wasn't like we got another call from the chicken people.
Right. Yeah, it's not a groundbreaking thing. There's no movement happening. You know.
Right. It was though. I do think that you need a city and a department that is willing to be innovative and think of other zero waste initiatives and opportunities for us, for my department, it was keep stuff out of the landfill, but also sustainability.
And I think that's where that was groundwork for the chicken thing.
If you have,
it was bits and pieces.
And
it was a stepping stone.
Yeah,
stairs.
That's just it. And if you've got a backyard, the plot of my size, folks, please God, don't have a flock over 5 or 6 chickens. Don't. At that point, you've literally got the chicken in the hen house mentality. You're going to hear, like I said, you're going to hear nothing but chatter all day. At that point, it will bother your neighbors. Much like any dog that just, I don't care how cute the dog is. If it just barks incessantly outside all day long, we got an issue, man. Number one, you're not paying enough attention to your dog, quite obviously. Number two,
so know your space.
Don't pay attention to him inside. How about we do that?
Yeah, right. If you're gonna
and unfortunately, my wife will not allow the chickens inside. I've tried so hard, Michelle.
She knows how much you like your lady. She's going to keep your outdoor ladies and her. She's the head hen in the house.
That's true. That's her range.
Baby.
That's her home range.
It's her home range.
I should not allow an invasive species in.
Like the guinea pigs we were discussing before the show.
That's right. So you do have to be careful. Make sure that you're mindful of your neighbors. if you've got neighbors that are the persnickety neighbors, go talk to them.
Absolutely.
Go let them know.
Bring them some eggs or promise them some eggs.
That's what I was about to say. Good God, number one, come by and ask them, do you have some table scraps you're trying to get rid of?
Yeah.
I'm looking at getting a couple chickens.
Thing with the city that I should have mentioned is we have a pay-as-you-throw system. So the less you throw in the garbage in the trash can, the smaller it is, the less you pay. Mm-hmm. So the less stuff you have to put in your trash can, the lower your bill would be.
Yeah, we have
whether
that
it be
tiny trash can.
Recycling more or diverting food waste. So that could really help your neighbor say, you can save money. Give me all your food scraps.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And to the point of how much to quantify. Awesome. I come from data world. And I like to quantify.
You got to quantify.
And so we did a pilot study this past fall. I'm the president of Urban Poultry Association of Texas, which is a 501c3 nonprofit all about urban poultry.
Yep.
And
awesome.
And with that, we had 15 people. We said we wanted to see how much waste, quote unquote, can you divert from the landfill? By your chicken system. And we said. We took existing chicken keepers in the Austin area. We said, just record what you're doing over 2 weeks in the fall. Tell us how much you're diverting. It does not have to come from your home. It can come from the neighborhood, the community, anywhere. And so with that...
I'm going to take a stab in the dark before you release it. I'm going to say 1/8 of a pound per chicken.
Well, in 2 weeks, we had, in the end, 15 participants go all the way through.
Per day. 1/8 of a pound per day. I would.
Well, it doesn't have to be. It's the chicken system.
Okay.
So we were able to divert, and we double checked all the numbers. 2 tons of waste.
Wow.
In 2 weeks with 15 people.
That's amazing.
And that's because
2 tons in 2 weeks with 15 people in the study.
Amazing.
How many chickens in the flock?
it was various sizes from those 15 households. But you had people who were leaf thieves. Think of all those leaves that are put up there. That's wonderful for the run and then for your yard. You had leaves. You had, it was probably near October, so you had some pumpkins from those pumpkin hay rides.
Yeah. Oh, God, all the pumpkin rinds, everything else, and nothing but...
The pumpkin seeds are great natural dewormers, too, for your chickens.
Well, and that's just it. Like, people don't realize how many herbs, even decorative herbs, that you have growing around your house that are actively good for your flock. Rosemary. Yeah. I've got a rosemary bush almost the size of this table out in front of my house. And all I got to do is go out and snip a few branches of it, throw it around in the nesting boxes. The birds don't mess with it, but it keeps all the mites away, keeps everything away. It's a natural antibiotic in their water, so I throw a sprig in their water every week.
And I mean, the pesticide, for me, the chicken being a pest control thing, it's huge. Right now it's so hot outside, there's the bugs, and you just want to enjoy the outside.
Not just that, but if you consider the fact that, number one, of any animal that you may have as a pet that could probably drink some standing water in your backyard, it'd probably be a chicken. Yeah. So if anything's going to probably get rid of the mosquito larva in your backyard, it's just a tiny little worm wiggling around in the water. That's chicken bait, man. Like that mosquito does not stand a chance of living.
I want to add something to what Michelle was saying about diverting the 2 tons and just in your study. About 50,
that's incredible.
46% roughly of what we have in residential trash in the city of Austin is compostable organic material.
Yeah.
Wow,
granted, not all of that you can feed to your chickens, but that's a lot of food scraps and food waste, organic waste that we're sending to the landfill.
People called me crazy whenever we were getting ready to have our child. You know, of course, I'm sitting here at the table with 3 mothers right now. So, people were like, oh, you think you're going to have time for, cloth diapers. And I'm like, okay, number one, you have to remember, we don't live the typical 9-to-5 job. So we don't have to worry about daycare 90% of the time. We actively have time to take care of cloth diapers every day.
And there's services now, too.
Oh, yeah. No, not just that, but, I mean... It's not that horribly difficult. It's not that crazy.
Well, you guys have that cool spray.
We do have the cool
on the toilet.
Yeah, I had some friends
the power hose, man.
Yeah,
it's where it's at.
Yeah, Amy showed it to me today. I babysat their kid for 30 minutes today.
Well, we were waiting for you, ladies.
No.
Yeah.
Theirs is fine, but I have a job.
That's
and then
right.
I do this.
She can child spectate all day long at my house.
Oh, so cute.
It's a super fun age.
It is, and it was one of those that like I said, when we started considering having a family a couple years ago, things like that, that's when I started making the turn mentally toward preparedness, toward actively, I'm not saying like I stockpile food, folks. That's not what I mean by preparedness, but preparing my home. Even if you live in an apartment, believe it or not, if you can't have a chicken, you want to get rid of the funky smell in your apartment, start keeping all your vegetable trimmings in a zipper freezer bag in your freezer.
Oh, yeah.
And
I make chicken stock out of it. Or not chicken stock, veggie stock.
Once a month you make veggie stock out of it.
Yeah.
And you reuse it. Like I said, I've gotten into naturally dyeing my Easter eggs. And it's a threefold benefit. Number one, I'm naturally dyeing it. Number two, I get dinner out of it.
When you're going to have children, it changes your mindset on how you view the world and how you are leaving this place that we're in.
Right.
Just to think, number one, I mean, like today, Amy's cousin came over. She brought over some wipes and diapers. What?
We were wondering where this came from.
Yeah, because we don't really buy a lot of them. Everything that we've had was stuff that people gave us for the shower, stuff like that. And it's like, well, he's gonna grow out of them. We may as well use them. But the concept of us being able to, I know before I left the house today, between 6:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m., I changed probably about 10 diapers.
Sounds about right.
So you do that math metrically?
Oh, yeah. Diapers
are over 7 days?
Yeah.
Over a month? It was like, number one,
this is one baby.
I don't even want to mess.
Right.
Hey, man, this is Texas.
You better be using
It gets crazy hot outside, and I know how funky my regular trash gets. Much less a trash can full of stinky diaper material.
Those days are so long behind.
Much less that diaper material knowingly. And I'm all about proper landfill, folks. I'm all about proper landfill. If you're talking about organic landfill, like there is no better producer of methane. There's no better producer of natural gas that you can get. Right. But it's got to be properly maintained landfill. It can't just be somewhere where people can come like dump their refrigerators off, things like that. It can't be something that's just like a pile of diapers, because that's where it ends up. And it is like, what is our impact? What are we doing? Hey, man, if I can keep, let's see, 10 diapers a day, 7 days a week, that's 70 diapers. That right there is 210 diapers a month. We're talking about the first year in life.
2 years.
That's a month, 210 times 12. That's going to be like 1,400, 1,500 diapers at a minimum in a landfill for my kid. And that's just in the first year. And then, you start adding that up. There's literally a landfill out there that will never biodegrade just from diapers. Yeah. And how are we supposed to handle that?
Landfills don't break down things, really. I mean, the way the landfill is set up now, it's not going to break down. That's one of my personal pet peeves is to see restaurants that have compostable or places that have compostable servingware and plates and stuff and bowls. And then they don't have the composting on site. So I'm just throwing it in the trash, or it's going to go to the landfill, and guess what? It's not breaking down.
It's not breaking
down there.
Exactly. And that's why I'm saying properly maintained landfill.
Yes, absolutely.
There is a way to maintain landfill where it's basically like a huge mulch pile.
Yeah.
And you are taking it. You can even take advantage of like geothermal energy from it. All kinds of stuff. It's pretty amazing.
Don't they have those pipes also in the ground to where the methane gas comes out?
Sure.
Where they should
absolutely
at least collect that maybe.
But when it's the thing is, it's got to be a properly maintained landfill. It's got to be one where the soil is regularly turned. It's got to be one that's basically like a huge composting.
It's a compost,
right?
Yeah,
huge compost.
That can all be on a, what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Distributed landfill system where you start small, start local, start in your backyard. Yeah. Instead of putting those leaves by the side of the road, put them in your backyard in your chicken run.
Yeah, or if you have a friend that has a chicken run that might need them.
Well, and not just that, folks, but remember, if you're a composter and you have a friend that wants to compost, give them a couple gallons of compost.
Yeah.
Because all that does is start the process.
Yeah.
But going back to the yard trimmings, actually, because I have to, it's my job.
Do it.
The yard trimmings that
Good
the
reason.
city, that the city picks up, some of it goes to in the composting pilot that we have now, and the other yard trimmings become mulch, and it's free at our recycle and reuse drop-off center.
Yep.
Cool.
That's
Oh,
dope,
and some
man.
of it also goes to Hornsby Bend, where they make Tillo dirt.
I know exactly where that place
There
is at.
you go.
It's over
Yeah.
by my house.
Yes.
Smells great.
Enjoy
Well,
that.
and that
it
is an
rained at
example of a properly maintained landfill. It's one that is there to compost. It's there to specifically produce this one thing, and it does it extraordinarily well, and it does it in a very scientific agrarian process.
Composting facility or reuse facility. Absolutely.
And I guess
Absolutely.
we're
Cool.
going
People to just go pick it up.
whenever.
Oh yeah, the recycle and reuse drop-off center. It's bring your own shovel and bucket.
Where is that?
It is down off of Todd Lane or Business Center Drive, like off of Burleson.
No, exactly where it is.
austintexas.gov/drop-off. It's great because you can drop off all your single stream recycling, but we also have this really cool machine called a densifier
Oh, cool.
to recycle styrofoam there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You can drop
That's
off.
dope.
It's
What?
we have some videos on our
Those are
Facebook
so
page,
awesome.
Austin Recycles.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
That sounds pretty cool.
You can take
Just makes
plastic
it
film
Yeah.
there for recycling as well, because that doesn't go in your blue bin.
Yeah.
But there's also other great resources. We have art supplies for free,
Yep.
cleaning products.
What
for
about
free.
electronics?
Wow.
Electronics drop off?
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
Buyers,
Batteries?
tires, batteries, paint. We want you to bring us your paint.
Nice.
We reblend it there.
Wow.
You can
Latex
take it-
and lead?
Wow.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
All the paint.
Because I was going to say you
Wait.
can absolutely, if I'm not mistaken, centrifuge the lead out of the paint. That's like an inordinately
big
valuable
project.
Don't
resource.
quote me on that one. I
Right?
just
Yeah.
know
It's
I
like
know
a
you can
big
take the paint,
undertaking.
Yeah.
and you can pick it up for free if you're a resident of the
Perfect
city of
for
Austin,
chicken coop.
Travis County.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can
right.
buy it.
Amazing. I had no idea.
Oh, it's a great
That's
resource that we have
fantastic.
available.
And-
Now, I was just on Todd Lane. Where's it at? Or, like, what's it called?
So if
Is
you're
there-
on Todd Lane, you're driving down Todd Lane, and you see the City of Austin buildings. You see
I saw that.
the building
One
with all of our collections vehicles, the trash and the recycling vehicles.
Okay.
Where all the trucks are.
Where all the trucks are.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's right across. It's Todd Lane and Business Center Drive.
Okay.
Todd Lane, and you're gonna drive up. They're gonna ask you
Nice.
for a zip code, just so we can keep track of who's coming
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And
Dude, that is
free
dope.
mulch, painting supplies,
We
cleaning
need so
products.
much mulch.
Yeah, go.
Cardboard.
Dude,
Big
I'm
cardboard
glad I
for
found
shit.
this
Free
out.
stuff.
That's
I'll be
fantastic.
hitting
And
you up.
see what a resource, folks.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
who knew that existed?
That's
That-
amazing.
I want
Yeah.
everybody to know.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Now we
it.
do.
Because
And bring all your electronics. The only thing.
Electronics, too.
this-
Electronics, refrigerator. Yeah.
because
electronics,
I mean,
TVs.
you know,
Holy shit.
all too frequently, this especially being a college town, you know, there's a reason why we have two big trash collections every year, and why they float right up around when school lets out and when
Spring
school
break.
comes back in.
Well, around campus for sure.
yeah.
That's when we do the bulk collections, but it actually goes year round throughout the city.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
ours is in April.
Probably April and like October.
Yeah, I know it's done in like shifts and stuff like that, where y'all hit certain neighborhoods
We
at
do.
certain times.
If you guys want to get
But-
reminders of collections like your bulk pickup
Yeah.
and large brush, you can go to our website, austintrecycles.com, and there's the My Schedule app. You enter your address, and it'll send you text messages when it's like your recycle day,
We
your
print
new
ours
brush
out and
great.
put it on the
Yeah.
fridge.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's
Nice.
nice because yeah,
Look
we
at me
do.
doing my job right
We
now.
do lose
so
we do lose
well.
track of the we
So
do lose
proud.
track of the recycling Mondays.
It is,
here
and we
there,
get
and-
that a lot where people
Yeah.
like they look at their neighbors.
I
and
just
they
put it out.
well,
Totally.
I just put it out.
You could definitely get
When in doubt, put it out, folks.
Yeah. There you go. Can't
That's-
go wrong.
There's your new campaign right there.
You can.
When in doubt, put it out.
I don't
But
think
yeah,
that's happening.
I work for the city. So
I need 20% of that.
but yeah, you can go put your address and you can
Make somebody
select
else
to
have
get
that.
like a text message, like a phone
Yeah.
call, or an email with your collection reminders. It's a great
So
tool that we have on our
cool.
website.
Yeah, well, and you know that's just it. You have to learn number one the systems that are available to you, the means that are available to you in your local district, in your local city. Not every city, unfortunately, supports things like backyard chickens, like Austin does.
Not
We are
yet.
forward, not yet,
Not yet.
and
I've had a lot of
hopefully
calls.
so. Because like I said, and I'm sure you've had a lot of calls from cities around the...
San Antonio called me last week. Actually owe them some compliments.
Yeah. And like, how's that going? Yeah. How's that working out for you? How's that going? Those kind of questions.
Where'd you get the idea? What does it look like? And like I said, for us, what made it extremely or easier to really implement was that it was a reimagination, a reinterpretation of an existing program.
Yeah.
For the backyard. Existing program's still there, too.
Yes, it's still there.
You can do that instead, because I can't have chickens, but I could compost.
You can definitely compost in your backyard for sure. And there's some stuff you can have both of them going at the same time. There's stuff that you can compost that you don't want to feed your chickens.
That's right. Like I said, onions, garlic, things like that. You know, if it's not something you'd take a honking bite out of, it's not something you want to give to your chicken.
Can you just feed your chicken lemons? And then, like, when you cook them, just add pepper and you got lemon.
Lemon chicken.
There you go.
I'll work on that. Citrus is good for them.
Pre-seasoning the
but
chicken.
I don't know about too much.
Just theoretically.
Yeah. Well, and you also don't want to use too much lemon pepper. That's the thing.
That's true.
It overpowers rapidly. So,
that's very true.
Speaking of overpowering, the amount of knowledge that we've had this evening is intensely overpowering. As we get ready to close out here, Michelle, Memi has just given us all the information for the city, things like that. Tell us where people can go to check out all the news and information on the backyard chicken classes, on the chicken coop tour here in Austin, funky chicken coop tour. I'm sorry, all the good stuff that is chicken related in this town of ours.
Absolutely. So for the funky chicken coop tour, you can go to austintexas.gov. You can also go find us on Facebook and other social media, and that will give you the dates and what's coming up for the next 2018 Funky Chicken Coop Tour. You can join the 2,800 chickenistas that are out for the Austin and Central Texas Backyard Poultry Meetup. It's a free to join, meetup.com/Austin Backyard Poultry. And definitely stay in touch for the classes. You can find them on the meetup.com/Austin Backyard Poultry. And then the actual schedule from the city is at
austintexas.gov/chickenkeeping. But also you can follow us on Facebook at Austin Recycles.
Okay.
And we post anything there. And when we add classes to the list, I was
trying to Google stalk as much as I could
Austin
to find
Recycles.
a link. So I will make sure to link that. I am a Google stalker. It used to be my job.
He's a Google stalker.
This Google stalking information was my job.
And when we add new classes, we definitely put out a little blurb on Facebook because they've been so popular and filling up so quickly that, like I said, I haven't had to do any actual media buys for this. We were pleasantly surprised at how many chicken enthusiasts. What we really think is great is that all these people that were on the fence. Do I do it? Do I not do it? We gave them that little extra. There you go.
Now it's your patriotic.
I didn't even do it on purpose. I'm that good.
That's smooth.
That it allowed those people to kind of dip their toes in it to figure it out.
Yeah, well, and that's just it. You know, it is one of those kind of like, what's it like to have a dog? I don't know. Go out and get a dog. Mm-hmm. You know, like you really don't know until you have one. And once you've had one, it's one of those like to understand the companionship, to understand that relationship is something totally different,
and it gives you food.
And it gives you food as opposed to any other animal that we have as a pet. Not that you couldn't like fricassee up your goldfish if you needed to.
That you were gonna say my.
That's not very filling though.
No. It's really more of an like appetizer than it is a meal.
And I've been eating a lot lately. Lately I've been eating. I need about 50 goldfish.
So, you know, it is not just a hobby. I honestly believe because there are enough documentaries about it now, it's a lifestyle.
Yep.
And what struck me the other day and why I said we should try to start up some kind of contest here locally is because I just watched a show on Hulu called Chicken People.
Yeah,
that was all about people that were like into the competitive chicken circuit in America, and it was pretty hardcore. Until then, the story of the chicken by PBS. was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
You've seen
I
it.
love that.
You've seen it.
I actually have I actually have a digital copy of it. I watch it regularly. It's a great show. It really teaches you a lot and gives you a lot of insight. One of my oddest facts about chickens, because we were talking earlier, I think it may have been before the show, about how long they live.
Oh yeah.
And we were saying they can live easily as long as your average dog. 15 to 20 years at a span with a good cared for chicken. But there was one, and I'm trying to remember, it may have been Roy was his name, and they talk about it in the show. And he lived for I think it was 5 years without a head.
Yeah, there was one. Yeah.
Without a head? He was sent to be butchered.
They must have left the brainstem.
It literally like a nubbin of the brainstem is what they found out. They literally fed him by dropper, and they watered him by dropper.
Why?
Because he had made such a stir in the local news. I mean, you got to remember, this was like Depression America, So number one, you're talking freak. You're talking about, traveling circuses, traveling freak shows, that kind of thing.
Okay, I didn't.
So whenever you're talking about,
loved Roy.
They did love Roy, because Roy had been in their family for years and years by the time he went to become dinner, and then he went to become dinner and did the typical chicken thing and ran around and just didn't stop running and just didn't stop running. So they fed him and they watered him, and he lived for 5 years wuthout a head.
How do you love something without a face?
It's still
That's
new.
a damn good question.
It's really wild, but this is like documented biological fact. It's really wild. I want to say it's called the.
How do we know that's not just muscle reflexes?
Because
it's 5 years, bro.
That would be a lot of.
I've caught a lot of snakes. I've killed a lot of snakes. And I'm here to tell you about some muscle. I've had a catfish that was bludgeoned and put into a cooler and survived for 15 hours and was still alive and kicking while he was skinned. All right. I've had some intense experiences with animals. However, that will to live went away. I can't say that that fish lasted for 5 years, man.
Yeah.
The chicken.
This chicken's will to live was pretty incredible, and that's what they, as a family, were like, yeah.
Is it a will to live if it has no brain, or is it just merely?
Oh, right. See, now you're getting into now you're getting into real dudes and beer territory. That's creepy.
This is just the life support machine of the chicken. It's gone. Lights out, Roy.
Well, and it's funny because I recently, Mike. I knew it was an utter straight up name. Hi, my name is Steve.
The chicken.
Hey,
so
Steve,
dog.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Chris.
Hi. Yeah, Chris. Utterly blasé between 74 and 76. It was Christopher Muhammad. Because of Muhammad Ali and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you were going to go box, right?
Yeah, that's it. So I landed Christopher. Go figure that. Which brings up as Christoph in every government computer ever. So
nice. That's kind of cool.
8 characters only allowed.
I don't think Mike was home.
No. Well, but it's I would tend to agree with you. And it's interesting that on the same note, like I said, I post prolifically on Dudes and Beer on Facebook. So please feel free to come join the group.
I will.
I'd love to see some conversations from you guys, because I post a lot of articles, and one of them that I posted recently was a child, and I want to say it was in New York or something like that had actually lived for almost the same amount of time with about the same amount of brain in their head.
Yeah.
And they were told literally from hour one that it could be an hour. You're lucky your baby was alive to begin with. These babies normally don't live past a couple of hours. So.
And it just sort of fabricated
our real brain?
They had it taken, and literally
just enough of the cortex.
This child is fully functioning, reads, speaks, everything.
Right.
It's pretty incredible.
No, the chicken doesn't read.
That would have been for Mike to have been a double miracle like that. A reading chicken that then that happened to.
He can't talk.
What a career! What a career!
Yeah.
What a chicken
Mike has
that
accomplished
is.
more in his headless 5 years than we collectively have in our whole lives.
Mike is hope for
Mike has had like an impact for like the last 100 years almost.
There you go.
He is one of the most prolific chicken stories out there as far as that will to live, that wanting to make it happen.
That'd be awesome if I had no head and still had the will to live.
I will not be your
run off
standard
like a
chicken.
chicken with my head cut off.
Yeah, and that's just it.
I don't know
how
where
many
my
of
head's
us?
at, but I'm good.
How many of us are really Mike the chicken? Whenever you stop to think about it.
Well,
our head was really cut off years ago, and we're just operating off pure muscular reflex.
I think this is the new parent talking at this point with the sleep deprivedness.
Yeah.
I feel like I became Mike when my twins were born, and I've just been aimlessly trying to figure it out.
It's funny because I've had to explain to some clients that have known me for years and know like how I am about things that like I'm sorry I have not, even you when I was like I am sorry I have not gotten back to you in the last week and a half.
Please.
Like 2 or 3 weeks since we've spoken and I'm like I'm so sorry, like I have had baby brain for like the last 2 months. My brain is melted. I'm lucky I remember to get up and let my chickens out in the morning, much less maintain like 8 websites and like make a new one like I was doing today.
Into Gerber.
Which, that's the website for today is a totally different story, and we'll talk about that on the next episode.
No, I wasn't even going to bring it up.
We can't launch that yet.
Believe me, I know it, but
we can't launch that
I wasn't
yet.
going to release it yet. Yeah.
But what I will plug, one more time before I plug things, let's please, one more time, Memi, give us where people can go to find out all of the information about recycling in Austin, all of the information about composting, and then we will ring back over to Michelle before we leave to talk about the Backyard Chicken Program.
Absolutely. For our department, austintrecycles.com, or in Espanol, Austin Recicla, if you want to. And then, so on there we have all the stuff about recycling and the Recycle and Reuse Drop-Off Center and other things we talked about today and upcoming initiatives that we have. And then for specifically chicken keeping, austintexas.gov/chickenkeeping. And for the Drop-Off Center, austintexas.gov/dropoff.
Yeah. All right. And Michelle?
And then go to austincooptour.org for the Funky Chicken Coop Tour. Find us on Facebook as well. You can also go to meetup.com/Austin Backyard Poultry to hang out with your peeps at the chicken meetup.
Get it?
I'm going to have to check out this chicken thing, man.
Couple of punny ladies in the house tonight.
Hey, I got a question before we go to close.
What's that?
Is like, what's the hardest thing to recycle?
Well, it depends. Recycling markets, just like any other market, ebbs and flows and goes up and down. So it depends on really what is strong in the market right now. Paper is traditionally one of the easiest materials and most valuable commodities, I guess, to sell. Glass has a hard time sometimes, but it really depends on what's out there and what somebody's willing to buy, just like any other market. So like currently right now in the city of Austin, there's no real market for the end life of styrofoam. So that's why we at the city decided let's get a densifier ourselves and accept it at the Recycle and Reuse Drop-Off Center.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, we would, based on that question as well, we want people to remember that recycle should be the last choice when it comes to properly disposing of one unwanted item. Reduce, don't buy it in the first place if you don't need it.
Yep.
Buy things that have multiple uses, not just one. Mm-hmm. Give it to somebody else. So I buy and sell stuff online and on Craigslist all the time.
Oh God.
Reuse, gift, donate. Go to your local charities, donate before getting to that recycle.
And maybe even being the first step of being sustainability is maybe perhaps watching what you're throwing away and being self-conscious of what you're throwing away and saying, hey, can I recycle this? Or can I reuse
take a mental kind of pause for
I'd say that might be kind of maybe the first step of doing something.
Yeah, we have sorting guides we can give. You guys want to come, we also put on our Facebook page if we're going to be out at events and stuff. We have lots of great information we give you, and you could put that just on top of your wherever. It sounds fancy when you call it a system, but really where your trash can and your recycle bin are. Just a reminder of what goes where.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, division signs, all that kind of stuff, and letting people know, like you said, reduce, reuse, then recycle. That's the process. That's the three arrows.
I mean, we did that study a couple of years ago where we found out that almost 25%, a quarter of everything in our residential trash in Austin was paper, like the most easiest recyclable material that we have out there. So right now what I've been really trying to just remind people, hey, you can recycle paper, plastic, metals, aluminum,
and letting people know where they can go to do it is the most important. If it's not right there at their front doorstep.
Absolutely.
You know, and even before I left my apartment, they had started a recycle program, that kind of stuff. So it's starting to happen around town. These things are starting to appear. They're starting to appear in more cities all around the country. So,
and if anybody has any questions, our marketing rep, Jorge, who is great, you can just send us a question on Facebook. Put it on Facebook, post it there. If we can help you out, we'll try to help you out.
I'm here to tell you right now, folks.
That's pretty dope.
Probably hands down one of the most responsive city offices I've ever talked to. And in my time in journalism, things like that, I talked to quite a few city offices to call up and find out what was going on, things like that.
You got a permit, fool?
You know, all kinds of fun stuff. And what if I don't?
Closing you down.
I can't hear you.
That's right. So on that note, please, everybody, make sure that you do go out and check out the Backyard Chicken Keeping class coming up on the 29th, 1 to 2 p.m. at Recycled Reeds. That is being put on by the Chicken Keeping rebate program by the Austin Resource Recovery Group here in Austin. And we want to thank Memi Cardenas and Michelle Hernandez so much for coming in this evening and shedding light on this most important topic. I mean, like I said, whenever I got you on the phone, I was ecstatic, number one, that y'all were all about coming on the show. Ecstatic. Exactly. And number two, the fact that who was it that you knew that was a listener? Because you were like, oh, I was telling some friends about it. And they were like, oh, yeah, I listened to that show.
You know, I'm so sorry. I cannot remember who it was. But I did say, we got a call from, I think I said some podcast. We're going to go do it. They're like, what is it? And I told them, like, what? That's a great podcast. So whoever that was.
I like this person.
If you're listening, whoever that was, send me a text message or something and remind me it was you.
Yeah. And you know, I guarantee you, if they're a listener, they're there, they're listening. If they're not listening live, they will catch it on their news feed tomorrow when I'm shamelessly self-promoting things. And speaking of things that need to be shamelessly self-promoted, folks, number one, go by and check us out, dudesandbeer.com. You can go on there. We have our free app. There's a couple issues with the Android market right now. I'm busy fixing that. So if you have the Android app already, you can still use it. New users, give me a week or so. I'll have it hammered out by next Tuesday. I guarantee you. And other than that, you can check us out, dudesandbeer.com/listen-live. And in addition to that, we also have coming up on the 8th of August our 2-year anniversary show out at Scout House.
We do.
So, ladies, if you have a chance, please feel free to swing by. It's a coffee house. We always try to have past guests, things like that, pop on the show. We'd love to have y'all on if you have a chance.
Because, you know, we might have some
any
chicken
new programs y'all have coming up.
You know what I mean?
I'm considering trying to maybe make at some point a chicken poop bingo table for us to bring out to events. Since I do have a chicken, that would be pretty cool.
I think that would
just
be
as a giveaway, that would be fun. But in addition to that, in celebration of our 2-year anniversary, because I'm a content fiend, I love getting content to our people. We have the video of the week every Sunday, all that kind of stuff. We have this show. We have the Dads and Beer that we do. We also have Thinking Deeply with Dudes and Beer. But I was like, what about all those other viral memes? What about all those other ways that we actively like grab memes from society? And I've made a few meme pictures and posted them up, things like that. But what really caught my attention was like, more than anything, I love a good comic. I love a good comic strip, whether it's something like The Far Side or Marmaduke. those kind of things, even New Yorker strips, and political strips, where it's literally like a frame that captures a thought, a concept. If you ladies look on the wall back behind you, you can actually see a sample of the artwork from our upcoming series, World According to Congos. My good friend Christopher Congos, who made that piece in 1990. That was actually a piece that was done in high school history class during American history, right as we began the first Gulf War. So that was like a little commentary as to what was going on at the time, and it just struck me as interesting. And it was like, how cool would it be if we actively had?
I can barely make a stick man, let alone do that in history class. I can't. You know what I mean?
I can't do that in the span of 45 minutes, but Chris can. Yeah. So I was like, how cool would it be if we found something that could take all of these crazy things that are going on in the world around us, take all of the just wonder and awe things that happen, as well as just funny observations on humanity in general, like the classic Far Side of The School for the Gifted and the dude pushing on the pool door. It's a classic.
Well, I do know that what I've seen from the upcoming stuff that might be coming up to release here soon is it looks way better than what I see on the wall. It looks really cool.
Yeah, well, it's really well done. And Chris has a specific style of his own, and I love it. So, Chris Congos, we'd like to give you a big shout out. This upcoming Thursday, the 27th, is our official 2-year anniversary. That is when episode number 1 of this podcast posted.
Wow.
So that is our official
118, 19.
And I started on number 2.
Yeah, this is 118 today. Steven started on episode number 2. It was pretty wild. It was pretty wild.
I settled down
which,
since.
Oddly enough, just on total tangent, did you see in the news feed that the son of Cecil the Lion was just killed a week ago?
You're shitting me.
I'm not even, dude.
You're shitting me.
Within 2 years of us doing the episode, Lions and Tigers and Beer Oh My, talking about the shooting of Cecil the Lion, within 2 years his son was shot.
Oh, that's terrible.
My
what is that about?
I can't.
You guys
That's
have
just
bad luck for lions.
Mind-blowing. So, all you lions out there, if you're a chicken, watch your ass 2 years from now. You better be putting some eggs out. That's all I can say.
Or just like Memi the chicken.
So that's right.
The lion got me on this whole dinner. Now his son died.
In a dinner plate. So, once again, ladies, thank you so much for coming on the show this evening. I cannot thank you enough for coming in, being a part of this program.
Great information.
Make sure to go out, check out their websites, check out all the information, check out everything that you can do in your local area to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Until next time, if you can't be good,
thanks for listening to this episode of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. To listen to our audio streams and chat with us live, download the official Dudes and Beer app for both Android and iDevices, available on the Google Play and iTunes markets. For more episodes, content, and information, visit us online at dudesandbeer.com. You can also find our episodes on Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the Revolution Digital Group family of podcasts. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.